Hello and welcome to Turing Dev Talks. This is Joy, your host for the day, and I'm tuning in from Nigeria. On the panel today, we have Sharafat joining us from Bangladesh. Before we start the discussion, I'd like to tell you that Sharafat is a software engineer at Turing with 5+ years of experience in software development. Sharafat has worked on various tech stacks ranging from React and Node.JS to DevOps. And today, he's here to share exclusive insights on JavaScript, how you can get better at it, and what you need to do to become the jack of all trades and master of JavaScript. Hi, Sharafat. First of all, thanks a lot for joining us today in this discussion. I hope you're doing well. How has the year been this far, and how is work at Turing?
Hi, Joy. Nice to meet you, and thanks for having me here. I'm doing very well. It has been a great year for me. I have joined Turing 6 months ago, and since then my career curve has been, better than ever. I have been working on interesting things, and I am working with the best minds across the world. And I can do that from the comfort of my home, which is great, actually.
Yeah, looks like you're having so much fun working remotely. And honestly, I'm really glad that you're having a great time at Turing. So now, Sharafat, before we get started with today's session, can you give our audience a brief introduction of yourself? I'm sure they'd really like to know more about you and your experience.
Yes. So, hi, I'm Sharafat Ahmed. I have been working in the software industry for more than 5 years now. I have worked on startups, enterprises, bootstrap companies, and now I'm working in one unicorn company. I have worked on different type of projects like financial services, large scale SaaS applications. Turing is for my fourth job actually, and in every company that I have worked gave me opportunities to learn new things. The process tools, these are different in almost every company, so I had to learn and adapt to different things and different technologies, and it is something that I love. I have worked with Java, React, Node.js, Next.js, Gatsby.js, and many more technologies. And also, I have worked a lot with various Google Cloud Platform technologies like Cloud Functions, Cloud Tasks, Cloud Scheduler, Compute Engine, Load Balancer, Cloud Data Store, and many more.
Wow, that's so interesting. Looks like your career graph is only going up. And on that, I'd like to speak about being the jack of all trades and master of one, in this case, JavaScript. What's your interpretation of this statement? Do you think developers should be well versed in as many programming languages and tech stacks as possible? Or is knowing a few enough? Does it have an entirely different meaning?
Okay, so the software industry is ever changing, and yes, Java is not dead, PHP is not dead, but people thought these technologies will be dead in some certain time. But startups and even enterprises are moving more into Node.js, Python, and Golang. React.js was released in 2013, and within 10 years, it has established itself as one of the most popular JavaScript libraries. So I'll share two perspectives about this, jack of all trades and master of one. So people used to think that it is better to have only one specialized skill. And this is not a wrong approach. This can work for somebody, and it cannot work for maybe somebody else. But maybe you will have to change your career path down the line in the future, because this industry is very young and there are a lot of changes in this industry. Maybe the technology that you are using and that you are familiar with, the industry will slowly shift away from those technologies. Most of the people are working in some technologies because they started working on these technologies in their first job, and that's why they actually love these technologies. And if you explore other technologies, you might like those new technologies even better. Another perspective is you should actually try to work on different part of the tech stacks. Like if you're a front-end developer, then try backend a bit. If you are a backend developer, then try front-end and things related to DevOps a bit. This will help you to understand your work even better. This will help you to understand the projects, and it will help you to have a holistic view of the project and software engineering. So it will help you to move more, grow more in your career. I'm a full stack developer, but I have tried working with machine learning models too. And maybe in the future, I'll work even more in this field. So my interpretation is, you do not have to learn as many languages and frameworks as you can, but you should definitely try out new things, learn something outside your comfort zone, and this will help you to uh, grow in your career, hopefully. But try to have a strong base in something. In my case, this is JavaScript. You should be strong, very good at something, then you should learn new things. Most of the languages and frameworks have similarities, similar features or options. So if you know one language deeply, it will help you to learn other languages quickly. And as you can do both front ends and back ends using JavaScript, if you are a fresher, learning JavaScript can be a good starting point.
Oh, I must say this is a very interesting concept, and it looks like it can help our developers get more visibility. I also think it can help them understand, programming languages and their differences more intricately. Now, this reminds me of the popularity JavaScript have among developers. Some even say that JavaScript has changed the web development scenario altogether. What do you think about that?
Yes, so JavaScript was invented in 1995. Java, C, C++, these technologies, these programming languages came way before JavaScript. Then Netscape browser was released with JavaScript in 1996, and Internet Explorer added JavaScript in their browser in 1997. Firefox added JavaScript in 2000. And since then, every major browser is supporting JavaScript. So as every major browser is shipped with JavaScript, it has become a de facto in front-end development. You can write your backend in any language or framework that you like, may it be C# or Java or maybe Golang, but you'll have to write your front end using JavaScript if you want to have interactions and dynamic behavior. But now you can also use JavaScript in your backends, because Node.js was released in 2009. And so as you can use both JavaScript in both frontends and backends, JavaScript is growing very fast. And I don't think this growth will be stopped very soon.
Wow, that's interesting. And in fact, I came across a survey that mentioned something similar. It said that as of 2021, JavaScript, HTML, and CSS were the most commonly used programming languages among software developers around the world, with nearly 65% of respondents stating that they use JavaScript and just over 6% using HTML and CSS. So, Sharafat, you have extensive experience in React.JS, Next.JS, and Next.JS. All of these fall under the JavaScript banner, but they have individual and unique features. Can you help us and the audience understand the basic differences between this web framework?
Sure, all of these fall under JavaScript banner, but these are achieving different tasks. React.js is a UI library, and it is one of the most popular and most loved UI libraries. React was created by Facebook, and they use React in Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. So Facebook officially backs React.js, and React is being used in many other big companies like Airbnb, Uber. React has many different frameworks like Next.js, Gatsby.js, React App. So Next.js is a framework on top of React.js. Next.js help us to build server-side rendered website easily. Traditionally, if you are building a client-side rendered application, whenever a person is trying to visit your site, the server or the CDN sends an HTML first. Then it requests for CSS, JS, and other assets. Then the JS mounts everything in your HTML, and then it calls your backend and fetch data. Then it loads that data, and finally then it shows the whole page using with this whole data. When you are using Next.js, you can fetch all the data in your server side and then return the HTML to your user. So when a user requests a page, your server can serve the HTML with all the data in it in that first request. So the wait time is generally less for Next.js, and that means performance will be much better. Also, only the Google search engine can parse JavaScript to find the contents in your web pages. So as Next.js is serving complete HTML, it is better for search engines, and it is very SEO friendly. Next.js also gives you an option to create backend using Next.js, and it has an option to generate pages statically in the build time, which can reduce the load time even more. And Nest.js is a framework for backend development. It is built on top of Express.js or Fastify. You can choose any of these two. The spelling of Next.js and Nest.js is a bit close, so I might confuse people, but people who have a background in ASP.NET or Java or even Angular can adapt to Nest.js easily. Nest.js is a bit opinionated. It ships with TypeScript by default, and it has its own opinion about file and folder structures, which is a bit different from React.js. React.js does not have any opinion about these things. Nest.js is very good for large-scale monolith applications as well as for microservices. If you want to build a easily maintainable, scalable, and reliable application, Nest.js should be one of the top choices for you for backend.
Wow, that sounds good. So let's assume a developer is starting their journey with JavaScript and they were previously working on some other programming languages, say Java. So which of these out of the three, React, Next, and Nest, should they pick?
Okay, so I was actually a Java developer before switching to React and Node.js. At first, you'll have to learn JavaScript because it is the building block of these three technologies. If you want to work in frontend, then after JavaScript, you should learn React first. And then you should learn Next.js, Gatsby.js, or other frameworks, because these frameworks are built on top of React. So first JavaScript, then React, and then Next.js. And if you want to work in backend, then you can start learning JavaScript. After learning JavaScript, you can start learning Nest.js. And Nest.js might be a bit easier for people with Java background because Spring Boot and Nest.js is kind of similar in some ways.
Yeah, that's so great. Now that we're discussing about this web framework in details, could you help our audience understand what a career path would look like in each of these frameworks? I think that would help them make a choice, like the right choice.
Yes. I'm a full stack developer, and I think I can give a bit idea about the career path for these technologies. Nowadays, front-end applications are a bit more complex than before. Previously, front-ends were responsible for only showing the UI, and now front-ends actually manages all the data and states that they are working with. In front-end, you'll have to think about browser compatibility also. And in backend, it is more about managing data. You have to handle, store, and distribute data to multiple places maybe. And the backend will be maybe communicating to other backends too. So you might have to read API documentation of other projects or other backends and use those in your application. So React.js is a front-end UI library. If you would be working in React.js, most probably you will be working on some frameworks like Next.js. React has great job opportunities right now, and the job market is growing rapidly. Also, if you are a React developer, it should not take much time for you to learn things like React Native, which is a cross-platform mobile development library. So React has a pretty good career path. And now Next.js is a framework on top of React.js, and many jobs related to React.js lists Next.js as a must-have skill. Popularity of Next.js is increasing day by day, and Next.js is one of the most loved uh, frameworks. So it is a good framework to learn for a good career. Now, last but not the least, Nest.js. So even I am also confused. Uh,
Yeah.
it is one of the best JavaScript backend frameworks. It helps us to write, more maintainable, scalable code. And so big companies are leaning towards Nest.js. And as people are moving more and more into microservices, popularity of Nest.js is growing even more. So it is a great career path for backend developers who are considering using JavaScript in the backend. And I would suggest everyone to learn both Nest.js and Next.js. You'll have better career opportunity in this way.
Now, that was some great insights. I'm sure our developers would now have quite some clarity on what to choose going forward. And on this note, I'd like to point out that Turing offers long-term, full-time opportunities in 100 plus technologies to senior developers from across the world. If you have 3+ years of experience and you are confident in the skill sets that you possess, head on to turing.com/jobs and apply now. Coming back to you, Sharafat, we've seen that React is more popular out of the three. So my next question to you will be that, according to you, should developers consider the popularity of a framework when selecting a project?
So yes, popularity is actually a very important thing. If one library or one framework is popular, that means that more and more people are involved in this library or framework. So you will enjoy better tooling support. You will enjoy, you will have more libraries to choose from for your particular problem. So yes, popularity can be an important factor while deciding. But yes, sometimes you'll have too many choices for a certain problem, and that is a good problem to have.
Wow, this was a super interesting discussion, Sharafat. I had a lot of fun chatting with you, learning about JavaScript and various of its frameworks. So before we wind up, could you share one last piece of advice with our developers on how they can prepare for a JavaScript interview or test? Do you have any resources in mind that they can refer to?
Okay, so for interviews, my suggestion is to make your basics strong. You'll have to learn the basics and core concepts of JavaScript, then React, and then Next.js or Nest.js, whichever technology you are applying for. Then for having a good strong base, you'll need to learn from the documentations, because documentations tell us in details about their features. And for as JavaScript is a basic building block of these technologies, you can learn from a great book called You Don't Know JS. So it is a great book. You can try it. And for those people who are actually a bit more into video tutorials, you'll find plenty of video tutorials in Udemy. And personally, I use Pluralsight more. I have been using it for last 5 years, and I have learned a lot about React.js in Pluralsight. But for Next.js and Nest.js, I mostly relied on the documentation. So I would suggest everybody to check the documentations of React, Next.js, and Nest.js. They both, all these three technologies have very good documentations in their sites.
Okay, that was so helpful. Thanks a lot, Sharafat, for sharing your views. I really enjoyed talking to you today, and I hope our audience liked our discussion as well. So everyone out there, if you have any queries, please feel free to drop us an email using support support@turing.com. Let us know in the comments below what you'd like to learn in the next video. Give us a big fat thumbs up if you like this video, and do not forget to subscribe to Turing.com. We will be back with many such Turing developer stories. Till then, stay safe and click on the link in the description below to apply to Turing. Bye.
Bye.